Welcome to Gardening with Lucy as we learn how to read pesticide labels and find out just what's in there. So before me I have an array of different pesticides. And I need to tell you that I'm not endorsing any of these today. We're strictly using them for educational purposes so that you can be making good choices when you go to buy a product to use on a pest in your yard. So we've got a pesticide that we're going to look at the label in order to see what's in it. In the case of this pesticide, it does say malathion. It actually tells you right up front what the active ingredient is, but they don't always. Usually we're going to look right down here and we're going to see it says active ingredient. And it says malathion, and an interesting thing, it's going to tell you the percentage. In this case, it's 50%, and then it's going to say other ingredients, and that refers to the inert, meaning it doesn't have any effect. But we'll get into that in just a moment, because I wanted to show a variety of different labels to show there's a great variety of how they put them on there. So let's look at this Natria, not what's in there. And it tells Bayer Advanced, that's the company that makes it. We're going to want to go down here to active ingredients, and it says sulfur and perinthins. And the sulfur has 0.2% and the perinthins has 0.01, and the other ingredients are 99.79. Well, does this bottle really contain the ingredients that it says here? And for that, you're going to look for the EPA number. So we don't see it on the front. Sometimes it's right on the front, but sometimes it's on the back. In the case of this pesticide, it's on the back here. There's a registration number for this particular pesticide. What that means is that the government has approved its use and guarantees that what's in here is what it says on the front. All right, let's look at some others. This is an insect killer, and the active ingredient is gamma cyhalothrin. So one thing I want to mention when we're thinking about a particular product that gets a broad spectrum of insects, well, maybe you don't have those insects in your garden. So you may want to target. An example of targeting a particular insect is BT. Now BT is used specifically for caterpillars of a certain class. Say you have a tomato plant and you got your tomato horn rim on it, caterpillars all around. So when you have those kind of caterpillars, you can use this particular insecticide that targets that specific caterpillar. Another thing you want to consider when you're reading your pesticide labels and when you're choosing your pesticide for your particular pest is whether or not it goes on the plant, it's applied directly on it, or whether it's systemic. So right here, this malathion is one that you spray on the plant. It goes on the leaves and it kills the insects that way. Let's talk about ants. We all have an ant problem, and most of us want to just pick up this and go spray them and get rid of them. But in the long run, this is not going to help you. And so I favor a more long-term particular way of killing them, and that would be using ant baits. So here we're going to look and we're going to see the active ingredient is sodium tetraborate. We got a very small amount of a particular ingredient, and the ants are going to come to this and they're going to eat a little bit. They're going to take it back to the nest over and over and over, and over time, maybe up to a week, it's going to kill most, if not all, of the colony. So in the long run, you're going to have a lot better results with this. One thing about organic products is that they tend to not work as long because they dissipate into the environment quicker. That's the advantage of them. They don't have long-term effects. But you may have to apply them more often, but be advised that sometimes it takes a little longer for them to work. But don't give up. Just because it takes a little longer doesn't mean it's not better for your garden in the end. So we're going to look here about the environmental hazards. You have to be careful and not let it get in waterways that it can be toxic to fish. So one thing I want to mention is just because it's organic doesn't mean, see it says caution, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily so safe that you can use it willy-nilly. You still need to be reading the instructions and applying it just as it says so that you don't harm anything more than the insects that you want to get rid of. One thing you're going to want to know about your insecticide is how toxic is it? So we're going to talk today about the signal words. So what we're talking about when we're using the signal words is acute toxicity. And what acute toxicity is, how it is affecting someone using it right now or within a day. Okay, so we're talking about if someone accidentally ingests some spray, gets it in their mouth, what if it gets on their skin, what if they breathe it in. All these things can cause toxic reactions. So the ones that say danger and warning, you're going to want to stay away from because they take very little to cause a toxic reaction versus the ones that say caution on them. Another thing that you need to know too is that this does not refer to the long-term environmental effects or the long-term toxicity, say if it causes cancer for using it for a long time. That's not on the label. You'd have to look that up, which is one good reason to know exactly what the ingredient is, because if you want to know what long-term toxic effects you may have, you can go look that up. Another part of the label is going to be the precautionary statements, which are also very, very important. So this is going to be telling you some hazardous parts of this particular pesticide that you need to be careful of. In this case, it says harmful if swallowed, harmful if absorbed through your skin. Avoid contact with your eyes, skin, or clothing. So what that tells me is if I'm going to use this in my garden, I'm going to have long sleeves on, and I'm going to take that off when I'm done, and I'm going to put it and wash it right away. I'm not going to continue to wear that during the day and make contact with other people with that same shirt. So that's really important to know so that you'll know how to use this properly. And then it talks a little bit about the environmental hazards. Here it says, this product is extremely toxic to aquatic invertebrates. Do not apply directly to water or allow it to drift to water. That's really important information to you. If you happen to have a pond in your yard or are near a waterway, you're not going to want to let this get in it. You're not going to want to let runoff get into it, and you're not going to want any of the spray to go on. You could hurt the fish and other aquatic animals. It also goes on to talk about not letting it run off into storm drains, drainage ditches, gutters, all these various things. So you see that these precautionary statements are very, very important for you to know so that while you are using this, you're going to be using it in the stated way and not harm yourself, your loved ones, your pets, or the environment. Weeds are pests too, and we often use a shovel to take them out, which is a lot of work. It's a way that I do most of my weeds, but sometimes it's helpful to have a weed killer. So if you don't want the manual labor of digging up weeds, there's other ways to get them. So right here I have a couple of products that we're going to talk about. First off, I want to talk about what we were saying over there with our weeds is that there's broad spectrum weed killers that kill a whole variety. So on this label, they actually have a little graphic on the front with photographs. So it's telling you that it's going to take care of nutsedge, crabgrass, dandelions, and clover. So it's taking care of a broad spectrum of various kinds of weeds versus grasses or broadleaf. So these are all broadleaf. This one, which is a safer one, it's also broad spectrum because it does weeds, grass, and broadleaf weeds, but it has a different active ingredient which is safer to use in your garden. So you have your choice of less toxic or more toxic, because one of them is going to last in the environment a little longer. But the thing about both of these is they are used after the weed is there, called post-emergent. Okay, so you got a weed, you're going to want a product, right? Whereas this one over here, the preen, is used pre-emergent. So you're going to be using this before the weed comes. It actually goes down into your soil and it's going to kill the little seeds so that they can't sprout. And that sounds like a good plan to me. But you got to be careful where you use it. You can't just use it anywhere, and you must use it exactly as it states. So I said it before, but I'll say it again. It's really important when you're reading your pesticide label to know what you're using, how it's going to affect you and your family, your pets, and your environment. So you're going to want to know what's in it, how toxic it is. You're going to want to know how to use it, and you're going to want to know how to dispose of it. So if you live in Riverside, the Riverside County Waste Management Department has a website that you can look up and find out which dump is closest to you so that you can take your unused pesticides. It's always important to use your pesticides responsibly. So today we covered a lot of things, but there's a lot more, and I'm hoping that when you get out there, you're going to have a lot more fun reading the labels that seemed so mysterious to you before. So come back again to Gardening with Lucy, and we'll discuss a lot more important topics about gardening. See you next time.